In the quiet town of Cook County, a woman vanished without a trace. For 25 years her name, Mary Ellen Hart, haunted every unsolved file. But when a forgotten road and an old red truck resurface, Sheriff Donna Hayes follows a trail of rust, silence, and secrets buried deep in the woods. Each clue uncovers another missing girl, and every answer leads to darker truths, until she comes face to face with the man who never stopped watching, because some roads never stay forgotten. The last known sighting of Emily Carter was on a quiet Thursday evening in late October 2012. She was 23, a nursing student at St. Helena College in Maine, and like so many who disappear without a trace, her final moments of normalcy seemed painfully ordinary. At 6:47 p.m., she texted her roommate, "Leaving the library now. Be home soon." The message delivered, but it was never read. The drive from the campus library to her small off-campus apartment should have taken 8 minutes. By 7:30, her roommate, Lauren, noticed the time. She sent another text, no response. Then a call, straight to voicemail. She assumed Emily's phone had died. It wasn't unusual. Emily's phone battery was perpetually low, a running joke between the two of them. But by 10:00 p.m., the unease had shifted into something colder. Lauren stepped out into the night, scanning the empty street where Emily's car usually parked. Nothing. No headlights, no sound, just a stretch of mist rolling down from the nearby woods, swallowing the quiet town of Bar Harbor. The next morning, Emily's mother, Cheryl Carter, filed the missing person report. Detective Michael Reed had been with the Bar Harbor Police Department for 17 years when the call came in. He remembered the chill in the air that morning, sharp, early frost glinting on the station windows. Another missing college student. They all began the same way, confusion, worry, a touch of denial. But by the third day, the panic sets in. Emily's silver Honda Civic was found 2 miles from campus, parked neatly along an old service road near the state forest. The driver's door was locked. The keys were gone. Inside, her bag, textbooks, and phone charger lay untouched. But her phone itself, missing. The woods surrounding the area stretched for miles. Dense pines, fog-laced trails, and long-forgotten logging paths. Search teams combed through the forest for days. Dogs picked up her scent near the first trail entrance, then lost it 40 yards in, as if she had simply vanished into the air. In the first week, rumors began to ripple through town. Someone said she'd been seen at a gas station 40 miles away. Someone else claimed she'd been arguing with a man near her car days before she disappeared, but none of it stuck. Then came the oddest detail. The surveillance footage from the college parking lot, Emily leaving the library at 6:47 p.m., showed her walking toward her car, hood up, phone in hand. She reached her car door, paused, and turned her head as if someone had called her name. Then the camera glitched. Static. 7 seconds missing from the feed. When the picture returned, her car headlights blinked on. And then she was gone. Detective Reed had seen bad footage before. Corrupted files, system errors, deliberate tampering. But this one felt off. Those 7 seconds haunted him. He replayed them again and again, convinced the answer hid inside the silence between frames. For months, the investigation stalled. No witnesses. No signs of struggle. No digital trail. Emily's phone last pinged a tower 5 miles north, near an abandoned ranger station in the forest, and then died. Her mother visited the station every week, brought coffee, brought new theories. Every time she left, she'd stop by the missing poster taped beside the entrance door, smoothing out its wrinkled edges with trembling fingers. After 6 months, the case went cold, but Michael Reed never really let it go. Something about Emily, her quiet determination, her unassuming kindness, got under his skin. He'd wake up some nights hearing her mother's voice. "Please, detective, find her. Even if she's gone, I just need to know." 10 years later, Bar Harbor had changed. New roads, new faces. Reed had retired, moved inland to a smaller town. He spent most mornings fishing by the river, a thermos of coffee in hand. Until one gray October morning his phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. "Detective Reed?" A woman's voice asked. "This is Officer Taylor from Bar Harbor PD. We found something near the ranger station." Reed froze. 10 years. The same place. He hadn't heard that name, Emily Carter, spoken aloud in nearly a decade. "What did you find?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. There was a pause on the line. Then, a backpack, buried in the mud, with her initials stitched inside. Detective Michael Reed arrived back in Bar Harbor under a sky thick with October rain. The drive took nearly 4 hours from his small cabin inland, but his hands never left the wheel. With every passing mile, the memories pressed heavier. The empty roads, the unsolved silence, and that name echoing through his thoughts. Emily Carter. When he pulled into the precinct lot, he almost didn't recognize it. New paint, new sign, different faces. But the smell of wet concrete and burnt coffee was exactly the same. Officer Taylor met him in the hallway. Early 30s, sharp eyes, the kind of energy that hadn't yet been dulled by time and disappointment. "Detective Reed," she greeted, shaking his hand. "Didn't think I'd ever get to meet you in person. We've been studying the Carter case for months." Reed gave a tired half-smile. "Guess it's finally come full circle, huh?" She nodded and led him into the evidence room. The smell of damp earth hit him first. Then he saw the bag, sealed in clear plastic, sitting under the fluorescent light. A small tan backpack, torn at one strap, muddy, weathered, but unmistakably the same one Emily carried in those old college photos. A tiny stitched patch in the corner still showed the faded initials. E.C. Reed leaned closer. "Where exactly was this found?" "Near the old ranger station," Taylor replied. "A hiker reported some bones nearby, but turns out it was deer remains. The pack was half buried under the roots of a tree about 20 feet from the path. Any ID, phone, personal items?" Taylor shook her head. "Just a few things, a pen, an empty water bottle, and—" She handed him a small evidence bag. Inside was a single silver keychain, a miniature lighthouse. Reed froze. He remembered it instantly. Emily's mother had shown it to him years ago, tears in her eyes. "She got it when we visited Portland Head Light," she'd said. She never went anywhere without it. And now here it was, buried 10 years in the dirt. The rain thickened outside, as Reed stared at the evidence board. Officer Taylor had built a meticulous recreation of his old case. File, printouts, maps, photos, pinned timelines stretching across the corkboard. Like veins of memory, she pointed at the Northern Trail map. "Look here," she said. "We plotted where the backpack was found. But if you line it up with her phone's last ping, it's about 2 miles east. So either she walked off trail or someone carried the bag there later." Reed studied the red marker circles. The ranger station used to be an access point for search crews. If someone wanted to hide evidence, it would have been easy back then. Taylor leaned back against the desk. "Here's the weird part. There's a shoe print found about 10 feet from the site. Partial, male, size 11. But the tread pattern matches a police-issued boot." Reed's brow furrowed. "You're saying an officer?" "Could be, or someone who got hold of one. But there's no record of any officer assigned to that exact search zone in 2012. Reed's chest tightened. He'd seen cases like this before. Small-town departments cutting corners, unlogged searches, evidence that quietly vanished. But something about that boot print, it didn't feel accidental. That night, Reed didn't check into a hotel. Instead, he drove out toward the forest. The rain had eased to a cold drizzle, the sky bruised purple and gray. The old ranger station stood crooked under the pines, half swallowed by vines and rot. He parked his truck and killed the engine. The forest was silent except for the steady drip of water through the trees. He walked the narrow path with his flashlight, following the trail markers until the mud deepened and his boots sank with every step. Then he saw it, a patch of disturbed ground near the base of an old oak. The same spot described in the report. The earth still soft where they'd dug out the pack. He crouched down. Something shimmered faintly in the beam of light, a sliver of glass half buried in the dirt. He brushed it off. It wasn't glass. It was a fragment of a phone screen. He froze. 10 years ago, they'd never found Emily's phone. But what if? Reed bagged the fragment, heart pounding. And that's when he heard it, a twig snapping behind him. He swung the flashlight around. The beam caught nothing but trees. Then another sound. Faint movement like someone shifting their weight just out of sight. Who's there? Reed called out, voice steady. Silence. Then the soft crunch of footsteps fading into the woods. He stayed still for a long moment, listening before retreating slowly toward his truck. Every instinct in his body told him the same thing. Someone had been watching him. Back at his motel later that night, Reed sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the bagged fragment on the table. He couldn't shake the image of that sound in the woods. Someone had been there, someone who didn't want the past disturbed. He called Taylor. "Do me a favor," he said. "Check the old department roster from 2012. See who was on forest search duty during the Carter case." "Why?" she asked. "Because," he said, voice low, "someone in uniform might have buried that bag, and I think they just realized we're digging it back up." The next morning, Officer Taylor called back. Her tone was different, hesitant, uneasy. "Detective, I found something odd in the roster logs. There's a name scratched out. A patrol officer listed on the original search list, but the record was deleted a year later." "What name?" "Officer Daniel Crow." Reed's grip on the phone tightened. He knew that name. Crow had been young back then, eager, helpful, one of the first to volunteer in the Carter search, and the last person to check out of the ranger station the night Emily vanished. Detective Michael Reed sat in his truck outside a modest two-story house on the outskirts of Bar Harbor. A light glowed from the upstairs window. The address belonged to Daniel Crow, once a young patrol officer, now living quietly, retired early on medical grounds. Reed hadn't seen him in over a decade. Back then, Crow had been restless, ambitious, the kind of man who volunteered for every search, every late-night patrol. But as the years passed, he'd vanished from department life just as quickly as Emily Carter had from the town. Rain began to patter on the windshield. Reed took a deep breath and stepped out. Each crunch of gravel beneath his boots echoed against the silence. When the door finally opened, Crow stood there, gray in the beard now, shoulders hunched, eyes guarded. "Detective Reed," he said quietly. "Didn't expect to ever see you again." Reed studied him for a moment. "You mind if I come in?" Crow hesitated, then stepped aside. The living room smelled faintly of stale coffee and dust. Old case photos and commendations lined the walls, reminders of a man who had once worn his badge with pride. Reed sat. "You probably know why I'm here." Crow's jaw tightened. "Emily Carter," Reed nodded slowly. "We found her backpack near the ranger station. The same one you checked out of that night." Crow's eyes flickered, but he said nothing. "I looked at the 2012 rosters," Reed continued. "Your name was scratched off the official log." "Any idea why?" Crow stared at the floor. "Doesn't surprise me. I told them to remove it," Reed frowned. "You asked them to?" Crow took a deep breath. "That night, the night we found her car, I was assigned to the North Trail. Alone. The radios were down because of the storm. Around midnight, I thought I saw something in the woods. A light. Like a phone screen. I followed it for maybe 5 minutes, but it disappeared. Then I heard someone crying. A woman's voice. Faint. Like it was coming from the trees." Reed's pulse quickened. "You're saying you heard Emily?" "I don't know," Crow said, shaking his head. "I ran toward the sound, but when I got there, nothing. Just fog. But when I turned back, my flashlight hit something white on the ground. A piece of cloth torn maybe from her jacket. I picked it up and kept searching, but then I realized. He trailed off, voice cracking. Realized what? Crow's hands trembled slightly. There were footprints. Not hers, bigger. Someone else was there. I radioed it in once the signal came back, but the report never got logged. And the next morning, the sergeant told me to keep quiet about it, said it would confuse the investigation. Reed's expression hardened. Who told you that? Crow hesitated. Then, almost in a whisper, Sergeant Mark Tillman. Reed leaned back. That name still carried weight. A decorated officer. The man who'd led the original search operation. He'd retired 2 years after the Carter case and moved out west. If Crow was telling the truth, Tillman had buried more than evidence. He'd buried the truth itself. Reed drove back through the rain with his mind racing. He could feel the old weight returning, the same helpless tension he'd carried 10 years ago when the trail went cold. But now it wasn't cold anymore. Now it was breathing. At the motel, he spread the files across the table, the old search logs, the roster notes, the map from the North Trail. Everything pointed back to that one man, Sergeant Tillman. He opened his laptop and began searching through archive department records. Tillman had relocated to Oregon in 2015, listed under a small security firm near Portland. A 2-day drive. Reed didn't hesitate. The next morning, Officer Taylor called again. "Detective, you were right," she said breathlessly. The search reports from that night. Half of them were refiled under new timestamps. Someone rewrote the logs. Reed rubbed his forehead. How many? At least 6 entries. And one of them... It's yours, he froze. What do you mean, mine? According to the file, you were logged at the ranger station that night at 11:30 p.m. That's impossible, Reed said. I was home. I didn't even get called to the scene until the next morning. Exactly. Someone used your badge number to sign in. It's all in the digital timestamp. Reed felt a chill crawl up his spine. Whoever did this had planted his name in the official record. They hadn't just covered up Emily Carter's disappearance. They'd rewritten history to make sure the truth never surfaced. That night, Reed couldn't sleep. He replayed Crow's words in his head. Someone crying in the woods. Footprints. Sergeant Tillman's warning. At 2 a.m. he got up and poured himself a drink. The motel was quiet except for the low hum of rain on the roof. Then a soft knock at the door. Reed froze. Another knock. 3 slow taps. He set the glass down and moved toward the door, hand instinctively brushing against the holster on his belt. Who is it? He called. No answer. He opened the door halfway, just enough to see a small waterlogged envelope taped to the frame. No footprints in the hallway. No sound of retreating steps. Only the faint smell of wet pine. He pulled the envelope off and stepped back inside. On the front, written in shaky handwriting, were 3 words. You were right. Inside there was a single Polaroid photo, aged, faded, its edges warped by moisture. The picture showed the ranger station 10 years ago. Standing beside it, Sergeant Mark Tillman, and behind him in the background of the frame, a girl barely visible through the trees. Wearing a gray hoodie, the same one Emily Carter wore the night she vanished. Reed sank into the chair, staring at the photo until the image blurred. His heart pounded not from fear, but from certainty. Someone had kept this photo hidden all these years. Someone who knew exactly what had happened that night. And now, after a decade of silence, they wanted him to find it. The road into Oregon stretched long and gray beneath the weight of a winter sky. Michael Reed had been driving for 2 days, the same Polaroid resting on the passenger seat beside him. Every few miles he glanced at it, that faint outline in the background, the girl half hidden behind the trees. The same hoodie. The same night. The same unanswered question that had haunted him for a decade. Who took that picture? And why had they waited so long to send it? By the time he reached the small coastal town of Astoria, the rain had returned, thick and cold, rolling in waves off the ocean. He found Mark Tillman's address easily enough. A faded house perched at the edge of a cliff, wind tearing at its old wooden siding. The kind of place people went when they didn't want to be found. He parked, killed the engine, and listened for a moment to the rhythm of the storm. Then he stepped out. Tillman opened the door halfway, suspicion etched into every line of his weathered face. He looked smaller than Reed remembered. Shoulders stooped, eyes shadowed with years of something heavier than age. "Michael Reed," he muttered. "Didn't expect you to come knocking after all this time." Reed met his gaze. "I didn't expect to either, but someone sent me this." He slid the Polaroid across the table once they were inside. Tillman's hand hovered over it, trembling slightly before he finally looked, his face drained of color. "Where did you get this?" "It was left at my motel," Reed said evenly. "No name, no note, just the words 'you were right.'" Tillman swallowed hard. "Then whoever sent it, they're not done yet." For a long moment, the only sound was the rain slapping against the windows. Reed leaned forward. "I think you know something about what happened to Emily Carter. Something you buried." Tillman looked away, his eyes flicking to the bottle of whiskey on the counter. "I didn't kill that girl, Reed," he said finally, voice rough. "But I made a mistake I can't undo." Reed's tone stayed calm, steady. "Then start by telling me what kind." Tillman sighed deeply, the kind of sigh that came from a man whose ghosts had been waiting too long to speak. "She wasn't supposed to be there that night. We'd already called off the ground search because of the storm, but Crow said he saw movement on the north trail. I told him to stand down, thought he was chasing shadows. Then around midnight I got a call from a private line. No ID. A man's voice told me if I wanted to find Emily Carter, I needed to come alone." Reed frowned. "A call from who?" "I didn't recognize it," Tillman said. "But it wasn't random. He knew my name, knew the case. He even knew Emily's last text to her roommate, word for word." Reed leaned in closer. "What happened when you went?" Tillman rubbed his temple. "I drove out to the ranger station. Left my radio off. When I got there, there was a car and headlights still on, but no driver. And then I saw her, standing just beyond the tree line, pale, still, like she didn't know where she was." Reed's chest tightened. "Emily?" Tillman nodded. "She was alive, Reed, shaken but alive. I called out to her, started walking closer, and that's when someone hit me from behind hard. I woke up hours later. Rain was pouring. She was gone. Her footprints led into the woods, and then disappeared." Reed sat back, heart pounding. "Why didn't you report this?" "I did," Tillman whispered. "But the report vanished. Just like the evidence logs, just like the phone records. Someone inside the department wiped it clean. I filed it twice. Then my house got broken into. No forced entry. Just my notes, my drive, my badge, all gone." Reed's pulse quickened. "You think someone inside the department wanted her case buried?" Tillman's eyes glistened. "Not just the department. There was a name that kept coming up back then. A private contractor that worked with the college for surveillance security. Horizon Data Systems. They handled the camera feeds around the campus. I always thought the glitch in the library footage wasn't a glitch at all." Reed froze. Horizon Data Systems. The same company that had managed several local surveillance systems around Maine before shutting down suddenly in 2013. He remembered their logo in one of the old evidence files. Tillman continued, voice barely above a whisper. "They were using campus surveillance to test facial tracking software. Illegally. Emily must have seen something she wasn't supposed to. Maybe she figured it out. Maybe she tried to report it. I don't know. But after that night, Horizon's lead technician, a man named Vince Harrow, disappeared too. Packed up his office, gone within 24 hours. Reed's jaw tightened. "And you think this Harrow might have taken her?" Tillman looked up, eyes hollow. "Or silenced her." A crack of thunder shook the window. Reed stared at the Polaroid again. "Then why send this photo now?" "Why after 10 years?" Tillman shook his head. "Maybe someone wants the truth to come out. Or maybe they're warning you to stop. Reed's phone buzzed suddenly. Unknown number. He glanced at Tillman, then answered, "Detective Reed?" The voice was soft, female, faint static in the background. "You don't know me, but I worked at Horizon. You need to leave Oregon. You're being watched." Reed's grip tightened. "Who is this?" The line crackled. Then, "They never stop tracking her, detective. And if you keep digging, they'll come for you too." The call ended. Reed lowered the phone slowly. Tillman's expression said everything. They were both in deeper than either had realized. Outside, the wind howled. Reed stepped toward the window, scanning the rain-soaked darkness beyond the cliff. Something glinted in the distance, faint, red, rhythmic. A taillight. A car parked just far enough away to stay hidden. He turned back to Tillman. "How long has that car been there?" Tillman's face went pale. "It's been there every night this week." Reed's voice dropped. "Pack a bag. We're leaving." But before Tillman could move, the sound of shattering glass tore through the room. A single gunshot slicing the storm. Reed dove for cover, instinct kicking in. Tillman fell backward, clutching his shoulder, blood blooming through his shirt. Outside, the red taillight flickered once, and disappeared into the dark. The next morning, the rain had passed, leaving the woods smelling of wet leaves and rusted metal. Sheriff Donna drove alone toward Willow Creek, the road slicing through miles of pine forest. A fog clung to the valleys like breath that refused to fade. She slowed when she reached the small bridge where the old road met the stream, the same bridge mentioned in Michael's notebook. The planks were half-rotted, and the guardrail was twisted as if something heavy had crashed through years ago. Donna stepped out. Her boots sank slightly in the mud. She scanned the ground, crushed grass, faint tire tracks. Recent, someone had been here. She took a deep breath, the air heavy with moss and secrets. When she shined her flashlight under the bridge, her heart froze. A torn piece of blue fabric clung to a nail, half-soaked and old. Could this be hers? She whispered. She sealed it in a bag, though she knew the color, that faded blue, matched what the missing report had described. Back at the station, forensic tests began. But she didn't stop there. She called Mitchell to recheck every lead connected to this road. He spent hours tracing traffic camera data from years back, checking vehicles registered near that time. At 2:14 a.m., Mitchell looked up from his screen. "Got something," he said, "an old truck, dark red. Last registered to Earl Drayton, a local farmer who lived 30 minutes from the bridge. Now deceased." Donna's pulse quickened. She and Mitchell drove out before sunrise. Earl's property sat deep in the woods behind a locked metal gate. The barn leaned slightly, vines crawling up its walls. Inside, everything smelled of oil and dust. They split up. Mitchell checked the truck out back while Donna opened the barn. The hinges creaked loud enough to echo. Inside, stacks of rusted tools, a tractor, and shelves of old photographs pinned to the wall. She moved closer. The photos showed hunting trips, barbecues, fishing, all normal, until she saw one photo at the bottom, a young woman in a blue dress, smiling. The name scrawled under it in pen, Mary Ellen, 1998. Donna's hand trembled. Mary Ellen Hart. She turned toward the back of the barn. A pile of old wood and metal had been thrown over something, a small hatch built into the ground. She knelt, clearing debris. The hatch was sealed with a heavy lock. "Mitchell," she called. He came running, flashlight shaking in his hand. They pried it open together. The stale air that rose smelled of soil and decay. Inside was a narrow underground space, a root cellar, with shelves and dirt walls. And there, beneath layers of dust, they found a woman's shoe, and beside it, a rusted bracelet with the initials M.E.H. Mitchell stepped back, whispering, "She's been here the whole time." Donna's chest tightened. "Not yet confirmed," she said, though her voice cracked. They sealed the area for forensics. The coroner's team arrived at dawn. By mid-morning, the news spread quietly across Cook County. Remains had been discovered on a farm once owned by a reclusive man who died in 2014. But the case wasn't over. Because in the files recovered from Earl's desk, something else waited. A photograph of the same red truck, parked near a dirt road with a second man standing beside it. The face was partially obscured, and behind them, Donna noticed something chilling. In the photo's background at a dark sedan, barely visible through the trees, one that matched a vehicle linked to another missing case from 1999. She stared at it for a long time, the pieces forming in her mind. "What if this wasn't just Earl?" she whispered. "What if there were more?" The fog outside thickened again, curling around the barn as if swallowing the world whole. This was no longer about Mary Ellen Hart alone. It was a trail, one that might stretch farther than anyone in Cook County dared to imagine, and somewhere out there, someone still knew the rest of the story. Rain began again that night, thin and restless against the glass of the sheriff's office. The fluorescent lights hummed softly, while Donna stared at the old photograph spread across her desk. Two men near a truck. One face belonged to Earl Drayton, confirmed. The other, half hidden behind the truck door, was younger, wearing a cap. His posture was nervous, his gaze toward the camera uncertain. "Enhance the right corner," she said quietly. Mitchell leaned over the computer, adjusting the image contrast. The man's outline became sharper. A short beard, lean frame, and something glinting near his neck. A pendant. Donna froze. She'd seen that symbol before. A small silver pendant shaped like a tree. She opened a different file. Another missing person case from 1999. Rachel Loring, 19 years old. In one of her photos, she wore the same pendant. Her stomach dropped. "He's wearing her necklace," she whispered. Mitchell frowned. "You think he took it?" "Or she gave it to him," Donna said, voice low. Before she disappeared, they pulled up Rachel's case file. Missing from the same region, vanished while driving to visit a friend near Willow Creek. The car was never found. Mitchell sat back. "That's two victims, both tied to this area." "And maybe the same man," Donna replied. But there was something else. The name scrawled on one of Earl's old land deeds, a co-owner listed years ago. Henry Vale. She ran a background check. Henry Vale, born 1972. Address listed Ridge Hollow, a town 30 miles north. Population under 2,000. The record showed he'd lived alone for years, owned a towing service, and left town abruptly in 2001. No forwarding address. Donna's pulse quickened. "Get me everything on him," she said. By morning they had an old driver's license photo, and the moment she saw it the room seemed to tilt. The man beside the truck. Same face. Henry Vale. Mitchell muttered. "He worked with Earl." "Not just worked," Donna said. "He helped him." The discovery reopened a case long thought buried. FBI analysts were contacted. A joint task force formed. Within days they uncovered something darker, a pattern. Between 1995 and 2001, 4 young women had disappeared across 2 neighboring counties, all last seen near rural roads or small-town fairs. Each time, witnesses reported seeing an old red truck or a dark tow vehicle. Donna studied the board in silence. Photos pinned side by side. Mary Ellen Hart, Rachel Loring, 2 more girls she'd never met but now felt responsible for. "We thought it ended with Earl," she whispered. "But he wasn't working alone." Mitchell rubbed his eyes. "Henry Vale vanished after Earl died. He could be anywhere." The storm outside grew heavier, thunder echoing across the hills. Donna walked to the window, watching the flashes of light crawl over the forest line. "People don't disappear completely," she said. "Not men like him." 2 days later they found a break. An old towing service invoice, while still active, billed from Ridge Hollow storage. A remote property listed under a shell name but paid for with a traceable account, linked to Henry Vale. Donna and Mitchell set out at dawn. The drive took them through fog-laced highways and broken fences. Ridge Hollow was nearly silent. One main street, a diner, a post office, and endless trees. The storage property sat on the far edge of town, rusted gate hanging open. Donna unholstered her flashlight as they stepped inside. Rows of metal storage units stretched into the dark, numbers faded on each door. The smell of damp iron filled the air. Mitchell's voice was a whisper. "You sure about this?" "No," she said, "but my gut's never wrong." They reached Unit 19, the one listed on the invoice. The lock was old but not sealed tight. Mitchell pried it open. When the door rolled up, dust poured out, and then silence. Inside were boxes stacked to the ceiling, each labeled with a year. Donna's flashlight flicked across one box. Inside they found driver's licenses, old photographs, hair ribbons, jewelry, trophies, and in the very back corner, covered in a tarp, a car door. Faded, dented, the same color as Rachel Loring's missing sedan. Donna felt the air leave her lungs. "This is it," she said hoarsely. "This is where he kept everything." She turned to Mitchell, eyes wide. "Get forensics here, now." But as she reached for her radio, a faint sound echoed behind them. The crunch of gravel. Donna froze. Someone was outside. She motioned for Mitchell to kill his flashlight. The noise grew louder. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. The shadow of a man passed across the thin beam of light leaking under the door. Mitchell whispered, "Could it be the owner?" Donna didn't answer. Her heart pounded hard enough to shake her ribs. The footsteps stopped right outside. A long pause. Then a knock, 3 slow knocks, and a voice gravelly and calm. "I've been wondering when you'd find this place." The air inside the storage unit froze. Donna's hand hovered near her holster as the voice outside spoke again. Steady, quiet, too calm. "You shouldn't have come here," it said. Mitchell's eyes darted to hers. Both moved slowly toward the side wall, the door between them and the figure still closed. The radio at Donna's shoulder crackled faintly, then went dead. He must have jammed the signal. Donna gestured to Mitchell, "Cover the left side." She took a slow breath and stepped forward, pressing against the wall beside the door. "Henry Vale?" she called, her voice low but clear. A pause, then a dry chuckle. "You found the wrong name first, Sheriff. I was never just Henry." Donna's jaw tightened. "Step away from the door." Silence. Then, metal scraped like boots dragging against gravel. Mitchell raised his weapon. "He's moving." The next second, the door rolled halfway up with a screech, light spilling inside. A man's silhouette appeared, tall, wiry, wearing a worn jacket and an old cap. His eyes caught the flashlight beam, pale and empty. "You took a long time," he said softly. "Earl used to say no one would ever come looking this far." Donna aimed her gun. "Hands where I can see them." He lifted them slowly. "Easy now. No need for that. Step back," she barked. He didn't move. "You've been walking in circles for 25 years, Sheriff. Do you even know why those girls disappeared?" Her voice trembled just slightly. "You tell me." Henry's smile was thin, almost childlike. "Because they trusted the wrong kind of kindness. Earl, he wanted to save them. Me, I wanted to see if anyone would notice when they were gone." Mitchell's stomach turned. "You sick?" But before he finished, Henry's eyes flicked behind them, toward the dark boxes. "Don't touch those," he whispered. "Those are memories. The only kind that doesn't fade." Donna steadied her breath. "You kept their things like trophies." He shook his head. "No. Proof that the world forgets too easily." For a long second, no one moved. Rain hit the roof, slow and heavy. Then out of nowhere, Henry reached for his pocket. "Don't!" Mitchell shouted. Aaron fired. The shot cracked through the unit, echoing off metal walls. Henry staggered, fell against a box, and hit the floor. Donna ran forward, kicking the pocket knife from his hand. His breathing was shallow, blood spreading across his chest. He looked up at her, eyes clouded but strangely calm. "Did you ever find the rest of them?" he murmured. Donna knelt down. What rest? He smiled faintly. Not every name was written down. Not every body was found. Then his gaze unfocused, the light fading from his eyes. Silence filled the space. The only sound was the slow drip of rain outside and the hum of the storm fading away. Mitchell exhaled shakily. It's over. Donna stared at the boxes. No, she whispered. It's not. 2 days later, search teams scoured the woods and rivers connected to Ridge Hollow. Dozens of artifacts, fragments of clothing, and human remains were recovered, matching several cold cases that had haunted neighboring states for decades. The media called it the Hollow Road Murders. But for Donna, it was never just a headline. Weeks later, she drove alone back to the bridge at Willow Creek, the same one where it all began. She parked, stepped out, and watched the stream move beneath the mist. In her pocket, she held Mary Ellen's bracelet, cleaned, restored, the initials MEH shining faintly in the sunlight. She placed it gently on the railing, her fingers trembling. Rest now, she whispered. We found you. Wind rustled through the trees, carrying the faint scent of rain. The water below rippled softly as if answering her. Donna turned to leave. But before she reached her car, she saw something strange. A small carving on the wooden post of the bridge. It was fresh, a small symbol of a tree, carved deep into the wood. Her heart skipped.
That same pendant.
That same mark. She stared at it for a long moment, a chill crawling up her spine. Then she looked back toward the endless forest. Silent, still, and watching. The case was over. But somewhere far beyond the trees, someone else still remembered. And as Donna drove away, the fog began to roll back in, like the woods themselves were hiding one last secret.